Chris and Colleen. I've just been listening to your show. I must admit, I'll listen to it and I hear the stories about the red rope and the difficulties and the challenges, well, and the way you described it on the show. But there are naysayers in everything.
Yes.
And I guess in business owners have to deal with that as well. As a CEO of an organisation, how do you deal with that? How do you listen to the naysayers, listen to the doubts, and then give them comfort or construct an argument that can satisfy them that you're actually doing the right thing?
This is a difficult area for me, and it's one that I deal with probably 70% of my time. The naysayers are generally the people who don't want it to happen for whatever reason. And I'll give you for example. There are naysayers with the outer harbour saying, oh, you can't have a container terminal, you can't have a stevedore operating in the brand new outer harbour as well as continuing in the inner harbour. Well, I say that's absolute nonsense, because if you ask the stevedore who's allocated the inner harbour what he thinks about staying there while his competitor gets the brand new, shiny, internationally efficient port, I reckon I know what they'll say. But you cannot convince people to change. Well, I shouldn't say cannot. It's really, really difficult to get people to change their mind to a logical position if they've just created this argument in order to keep the status quo. Okay? A second example is the naysayers will say, but you'll ruin Coburn Sound. The seagrass will be obliterated and the pink snapper spawning spot will go, etc. It will just be a disaster. Well, the James Point private port, some years back now, was fully environmentally approved. A reclamation, land-back reclamation along the industrial coast will cover essentially no seagrass. So what's the objection really based on? It's based on wanting the current arrangements to stay in place. So it's really difficult to change people's minds when they've created an argument to use to maintain their position. But what I do is just keep at it and at it and at it.
So persistence.
Yes.
What I did like there, and I know RDA gets involved, you using models, success models, and you mentioned this during the talk, is you're saying we're not reinventing anything here, like you said about the trade zone. It's already been done. And is that part of the skill sets as a business owner or at a CEO level, and the same for the RDA, you look for successful business models that are already there and then bring them and maybe just adapt them so they fit your situation?
In essence, yes, it is. And my job is to do work that's in the collegiate interest of my members. So they all want an efficient port, an efficient road system, an efficient rail system, a supply chain, right out into the regions. They all want that without exception. So the way to do that is to, like we did with the trade flows reports, that's why they were created, what's out there in the world, how can it be applied to the state's premier industrial area, not only for the existing companies in there, but also for all of that massive export industry that is going to develop in the future. So I'm operating on our potential future members in their collegiate interest. They don't exist yet, or if they do,
It'll just form.
Yeah.
Colleen, with RDA, is that what RDA does as well? Because it's chartered with developing the economic development here in Perth, West Australia, for you particularly. Is that what you do when you're looking at people like Chris? You're looking at models and seeing how successful these models and connecting those successful people together so they can get a better understanding and a better chance of success?
Yes, I think getting a better understanding is key to all of this. So people might hear bits and pieces in terms of what we might need to be able to do. And I think sometimes people don't understand what economic development is actually about. And the importance that prosperity and happiness and all kinds of things flow from good economic development. And I think it's again having those conversations, bringing the like-minded people together and getting everybody onto the same hymn sheet, so to say, in terms of speaking with one voice.
You know, we hear a lot, when we talk economic development, I know there's a lot of people get a bit scared and a bit nervous. They say, well, you mentioned China and that trade route, and they say, well, what will China do, and will they react negatively because we're improving our export? You mentioned one of the products, you know, a value adding before we export it, and people say, well, if we do that, will they trade us? What do you talk about when those concerns come in? We're developing our economic strength, and they say, but if we upset them, maybe they won't buy off us.
If we don't develop our economy, if we're not going forwards, we'll be going backwards. I see this Tianchi and this new generation of secondary processing as us going forwards again. We're standing still at the moment, and therefore probably starting to move backwards. So for us to be a healthy nation, we need to have a healthy economy, and a healthy economy, as Colleen says, you can look after those citizens that are less fortunate and so forth. But you need to have a healthy economy. How do you do that? You have abundant employment, and you make stuff that other people want to buy.
We've heard other people on the show, and they always talk about, we've got this idea and we go to the people who use it. And you talked about the huge container ships that currently can't get in. Do you talk to the companies that have got these to gain their support or get their input and how they see it working?
I do, and I have. And they operate in a capital constrained environment as well, and some of those are very, very big international port owning companies. They need a business case that's presented to them for them to make, to evaluate in order to make a business decision. That's absolutely normal.
Yeah.
I make them, if I want to go down to the deli and buy an ice cream, I look at it, if it's too expensive, I'll walk away. So that's a business case, you know, in essence. So these are big, big investments. So they've got to produce it, and they have to produce a return. How do you get a big company like that to look at a proposal like this? The answer is quite simple. You've got to give them something to look at. Have we given them anything to look at? No, we haven't. But what we've got is now is a government moving towards the point where it says it's got an internationally competitive port on the books. We want you, this is where it's going to be. These are the constraints that you have to work in. Then they've got something to value, and they can say, and then the government can say, bids please, just like Perth Airport, bids please, or the Burswood Casino site, bids please. And the companies will make an assessment of what their opportunities, and they will include blue sky thinking in there. That is really critical. The blue sky thinking is the cream. That's what they do this stuff for, primarily. So the whole thing relies on the proposition being defined by the government. It's not the government has to do it. It just has to provide the vision for it.
And I think some of that is happening in the discussions with Navantia, you know, in terms of, you know, they're a Spanish company, big oil tanker builders and sustainment. And it's that exact kind of conversation that's going on now in terms of Navantia actually looking toward the Western Trade Coast or the AMC and potentially moving operations there.
Everything that they need is available in the Western Trade Coast.
You know, we look at Western Australia and we've been commonly known, you know, it's wheat, it's sheep, it's iron ore. And we're building this huge port. Do you see it, the exports expand, and when we talk we can do secondary processing to those products, but do you see there's other opportunities for Western Australia beyond those three staples?
Here's three. Grain, why aren't we exporting noodles? Why are we exporting our grain by the shipload? I'm careful to say shipload, as opposed to some of it being secondary processed into premium. Australia is clean and green. That is our world reputation. Agriculture, horticulture, production. We could be doing so much more. So there's one thing. I understand there have been discussions around premium pork, right? So 1 million head of premium pork grown here, chilled or frozen, ready for export, wouldn't even be 1% of China's demand. So we've got the regions, we've got the people in the regions who need jobs, we've got the feedstock and the expertise and the land. So why aren't we doing it? So the answer to that question, well, who would organise it? There's nobody in government organising it. Where's primary industries in this? I can see that. So here's another one. Why are Chinese ladies coming over here to buy baby formula when we've got 2 major supermarket chains essentially driving our dairy producers out of business on this ridiculous $1 a litre for milk drive? Why is that? Why are those ladies coming out here? Because it's clean and green and relatively cheap. They sell it 10 times they sell it for 10 times the value when they get home. What about those dairy farmers getting together and just making baby food? Well, I'll tell you why. Part of the reason why is because they can't get it out. We're talking tens of thousands of containers here, not 1 or 2. Tens of thousands of containers. That's the market. We've got everything we need to do that except the supply chain.
I was going to say, so it's not that we can't do
Freight
it,
supply
we just can't get it out.
That's it. So it doesn't get started.
Wow, incredible.
Now that's what the people who say the inner harbour has got capacity for another 20, 25, 30 years, that's what they don't see.
Yeah, it's the exporting side.
Yes, that's right.
And Fremantle will, as I understand, always be retained as a port.
Yes.
It will just be a different kind of port.
Fantastic. It's absolutely incredible. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being
You're
able to
welcome.
chat to you off air and like behind the scenes. It's incredible. Someone who wanted to find some more information on what your board do, Chris, on what your organisation does, what's the best way, apart from through Colleen, of course?
Yeah, so we've got a website called kic.org.au, homepage there, our annual report in the library section. Just go to the library, you'll find a lot of stuff that we've produced, including the trade flow reports. They're there. But our annual report is a great summary of what we do.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you.
Thank you.